if you asked me before I got injured, how I would have dealt with it, I didn't think I would have dealt with it very well. Like, because we have these conversations in the army about, what will happen if you lose your legs and what will happen if this and that. And I thought my life would be over. Like I said to one of my friends, if I lose my legs, just shoot me, kill me. Because I was
I am Christian Williams, Global Transformation Coach, and welcome to another episode of Physique Transformation, the podcast where we connect like-minded individuals, all willing to share their knowledge and passion to help improve your life. And on today's podcast, I have a dear friend of mine, a very special guest, an inspiration to many, a leader that leads by an example, a man that does not take no for an answer. He finds a way out of no way, proving that life brings only opportunities, not setbacks. He's from my hometown in South Wales, Cardiff, and now he's living in Norway. He's running a gym called Nordic Power Zone, and he's actually selling the gym too. So that's a nice story there. He's one of the most adventurous guys I know. He is a non-stoppable type of guy, very impactful, very inspiring, and what is the most inspirational about his story is how he takes his family along the ride with him. He has competed in para-powerlifting at a very high level and actually was given the opportunity to represent the UK in the Paralympics 2012. He took up Paralympics in 2012 after being scouted just from a rehabilitation center after working on an injury recovery, which he endured after a life-changing incident where he was actually serving for his country, our country in Afghanistan, and stepped on an explosive device and lost both his legs. When I asked him what his biggest accomplishment in life was, he said one simple answer: being where he is now. And then he quickly followed by and bouncing back from my injury. When I asked him the biggest fear he has in his life, he told me disappointing my children. He said that he's not really sure why he gets out of bed in the morning. It's just he got shit to do. So, and one of my famous quotes that I love, what this guy talks about is, I believe that when one door opens, one door shuts, another door opens. I'm so blessed, privileged, honored to have him on the podcast today for you and for me, Stephen Headley. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Cheers, Chris, mate. It's good to see you again. It's been a long time, right?
Yes, it's probably been like 10 years.
Power of technology. And what an introduction. I have to try to live up to that now. Thanks.
You got it, man. And after a brief conversation, after so many years, if I had known what I know now, that would have been probably like a book. We'd have to write the book on it before we introduce you.
Maybe one day. I feel like I need to do more before I even think about something like that. A lot of expectations for life. So,
but that's the thing, right? I mean, obviously, before we jump into, the reasons why we're on this podcast is inspiring people, and we have many different types of people on this, but all with incredible stories, all that are willing to share. And, somebody like yourself who's clearly an overachiever, a high performer in many areas of your life. It's knowing when to, well, it's not, I guess it's not knowing when to stop, but we always kind of achieve and then reset and achieve. And probably, as you just said there, we never really feel like we've done enough to do justice to claim.
No, I think there are different types of people. I mean, sometimes, and I think it'd be nice if you could strike that balance between the two, but very often you have some that seem to claim a lot for doing very little. And then you have the others that, like you said, seem to not be able to do enough and can never take a break or feel like they're done, right? And I guess the perfect balance would be somewhere in between there, but I don't seem to meet many of them. It's always one or the other. But no, I definitely always feel like I haven't done much. Always, I feel like, and that's through my life, and that's yearly, and that's weekly, and it's I think it's one of those battles. Especially when you have a family and have more of a settled life. Now it's trying to fight those voices that are telling me I should be in a mountain or I should be doing something, and I'm just taking my kids to school and stuff, right? It's that's the struggle these days. But but that's life, isn't it? You can't live on the top of mountains, right? It's all the life is in the valleys at the bottom.
Yeah. And one thing you said there, which I've kind of, I guess, discovered, it's not a mystery. It's just something I was ignorant to, I guess. Where you said there's either people are one or the other. And I think that's where that perfect partner comes in, because that perfect partner is usually the complete opposite to you.
Yeah.
And many people, they seek for somebody with similar ideas and similar personalities. It's like, no, it's yin yang. It's about finding somebody who's almost, and not even by looking, it's just happens through choice or chance, I should say.
If I was with someone exactly like me, I don't know why I'd probably be dead. I don't know what I'd be doing. I'd be a mess. I think, I don't know what I'd be doing.
Probably be like wrestling on the floor like he was doing for the Paralympics.
I don't know, honestly. Yeah, because I can just go, and I can be so spontaneous, and I can be reckless at times, and having someone there to balance things out, and it definitely helps. Like I found a really good partner, and often people say you're very different, and I'm like, that's what makes us work. We're, I'm very, and we've also changed each other. Like I'm very relaxed, but I'm not as relaxed as I used to be, in terms of I could like procrastinate a lot, like very just don't worry about it. And my partner's very organized and very structured, and now she's more relaxed than she used to be when I met her, which is good. And I'm better at doing stuff, organizing stuff, than I used to be as well. It's like you said, it's that yin and yang, and it's helped us both become better people. I can't remember who said it, but it was something about relationships and finding a partner, and it was something about not searching for the best person, but searching for the person that makes you the best, or something like that. I don't know who said that. I read it somewhere and it stuck with me a little bit.
Yeah, and you're exactly right, because obviously, it's about, and I don't even know if you search, because, well, you wouldn't really know. You wouldn't be looking for somebody who is the opposite to you if you like yourself, because you'd be thinking this is how somebody should be. But what you do is you find somebody, and their weaknesses are your strengths, and your strengths are their weaknesses. And one of our kind of mottos, and one of the sentences we stand by here with our company is, alone we are strong, but together we're unstoppable.
Yeah.
And it really does really stem back from me with the idea of I can do everything on my own and getting to the point. And my wife has a tremendous influence in that quote there, because she is a complete opposite. But like you said, I've learned a lot from her, a lot of her balanced approach, and she's learned a lot from me. So kudos, man. And we know our wives are going to be watching, so I think our partners, we get them in there.
Keep it nice. No, I mean, I definitely wasn't looking for mine. I actually met mine as a result of my injury as well, because she was my physiotherapist. So,
oh wow,
I'm not one of those that's all karma and fate and all that thing. But if I was, everything happens for a reason, and all that. But that's it's definitely.
It puts things into perspective. So what I want to ask you first of all is, obviously, since I've met you, and we can talk about your injury a little bit soon after, but since I met you, you've always been such a positive, energetic, optimistic. You have a great sense of humor, and it's really it's a blessing. And what I kind of want to know is, have you always been this way? I know we changed through life, and where did it come from, or where does it come from?
Think I've always been relatively, I don't know if positive is the right word, but I've always just got on with stuff, right? Like I wouldn't, at least I'm not overly positive. I'm not someone that jumps for joy, or I'm not. It's funny because a lot of people that know me well see me as quite a cynical person, or like I'm very realistic about stuff. I think I take a logical approach to everything. I'm not a super highly emotionally charged person, so I don't jump for joy, but I also don't. I'm not also depressed a lot or anything like that. I'm very in the middle quite a lot of the time, and I assess quite a lot. But that also helps me be positive, because I'm not one way or the other. I don't go up and down like a yo-yo. and I can see things for what they are a lot of the times, and it helps me accept things. And I think it also helps me see other people's side of things as well, because I'm not thrown into my own emotions. I get to see, maybe my position isn't that bad, or because I think it's very easy to be very self-centered, right? Like everything is you. You were born into this world, and everything that happens around you is happening around you, right? It's very easy to be that way. So I think, I don't know why I'm like that or where it's come from. It's just, but yeah, I've always been pretty easy going with hard stuff and hard situations, and I've never really been tremendously affected by things going on around me, I think. So, but that's not to say, if you asked me before I got injured how I would have dealt with it, I didn't think I would have dealt with it very well. Like, because we have these conversations in the army about, what will happen if you lose your legs, and what will happen if this and that. And I thought my life would be over. Like I said to one of my friends, if I lose my legs, just shoot me, kill me. Because I was a very, very competitive person. I was always quite physical, always loved my fitness and my training and being physical. So something like that happening to me, the thought of that, I thought that would have done me, right? Like I thought it would have been, it was a big part of me. So I don't know how or why, but for whatever reason, when it did happen, I was fine. I just took it fine. And it's not something you can choose. It's not something I laid there or both at the time or after and decided how I was going to accept things. So I can't take any credit for that either, because I didn't have any solution or any I didn't make a conscious decision. I just did. And I guess sometimes you don't know what you're made of, right? Until you need to produce the goods. I think in hospital and everything, there was definitely a part of me that was putting on a brave face for family and friends and all of that, because I know when a friend of mine got injured on my first tour, the biggest thing that affected me when I went to visit him wasn't the physical injury. It was the way he was when I met him. He was like a shadow of himself. He was like a shell. And that really, hurt me. He wasn't my friend. He wasn't the guy that I knew. So I had this thing that because I got injured a couple of months into the tour, so all my friends were going to be back months later. And I had this thing that I wanted them to come back to me. I wanted them to see me for me when they came back, not something else. So I was very much straight back into the gym, training, because I lost a lot of weight in hospital. I was really, really skinny. So I had this thing, I was going to get big again. Everyone knew me as that kind of guy. And that's what I did. And I think having that focus helped a lot, just a distraction. But this is all in hindsight, right? Like I didn't make these decisions then that clearly in my head. I didn't sit and make these things, but in hindsight, I've had a lot of time to assess all these things and look back and again, ask why I think I did what I did and how and why. And these are the kind of answers I've come up with. But there was no definitive moment where I decided I was going to be positive, or I decided I was going to do this and that. So if anybody's looking for a key or magic answer, like a lot of people are selling, and a lot of people are looking for in everything to do with mindset, training, all these different things you see, business, right? As you know, it's in the fitness industry. That's what it sells on, right? Selling secrets and magic sauce. But no, I was just fortunate, I think, as far as I can tell.
It's a great way to look on things there, and clearly you would have to, because it's either one way or another. You would have to, or you wouldn't. And, like you said, you being a logical thinker as well, you think of the logicness of it. I had Mark Colburn, who was former Paralympic
Yeah, I
gold
don't know him,
medalist.
but I know of him, and yeah, another guy that's just cracking on and doing some pretty incredible stuff.
So he came over, he was staying with me for the last week. So we did a podcast on you a few weeks ago. And, I've known him for a while and we become more friends. So he was helping me out for one of my cycling events. He came to stay with me, which was fantastic. And in the podcast, obviously he had a devastating accident where, his back broke and he lost, the movement to most of his lower limbs. And then he started preparation for the Paralympics. And what he talked about, and he talked about all week, obviously there's different cycles, but he talked about the Kolber-Ross curve chain, and obviously the apprehension, the frustration, the depression, and then the either accept or decline.
Okay.
And, I guess what I want to know is, first of all, if you can take us back to that time. You can go back as far as you want, and obviously the days and weeks and months. And just to try to recap, where you were, did you go through these different cycles, and obviously how long was you in each cycle?
So that's interesting. I've never heard that, but it's interesting because one of the things I often do mention to people is that I think that it helped a lot that I never lost consciousness. So when I got blown up, a lot of guys that get blown up, they get knocked out or they go into shock and pass out or whatever it might be. But often they wake up in hospital and that's the first time they realize they've lost their legs, right? Like they wake up and then they get told or they see that they're missing legs. Whereas I didn't. I got blown up. So we were on a patrol, just a regular patrol, a couple of months into the tour, and we were in a field and I stood on an IED and yeah, I got blown up. I think it's a bit, very loud, dust, everything everywhere. It's very fast, of course. I kind of remember seeing like the tops of trees and in my head thinking, shit. And I hit the deck. I remember silly little details. I remember I landed on this shoulder and it hurt. At this point, that's all I remember. My shoulder hurt. And then I laid there, everything kind of settles. Everything feels like it was quite a long time, but I guess it was just seconds. And then I remember laying there and thinking, that was an IED. And I know what IEDs do. It's very, usually legs. It just depends on how high. So I checked, I looked, and sure enough, my left one was missing. And the right one was there, but it was hanging on by skin, like not a lot. So I don't remember this, but the medic told me afterwards that I then put my tourniquets on. So I got my tourniquets and I put my own tourniquets on both legs. I don't remember doing any of that. And I actually only found that out years later, just from a casual conversation with the medic. And we joked about, I think we made a joke. I think I was cutting some trees with a chainsaw and he joked about me losing limbs. And he said, oh, well, at least I know you can do your own tourniquets. And I said, it didn't help me. You did the last ones. And he's like, no, you did them. And I was like, oh, shit. And it was years, I think maybe even 3-4 years later, I found that out. So that was a really interesting detail that I didn't know about. But anyway, so by the time I did all that, the medic is there and he's starting to do his things. And I checked, as soon as I done my legs, I checked my manhood, because that's a thing, right? Like that happens as well. People lose stuff like that. And I lifted my hand up and there was just chunks of skin and blood. And I was like, fuck, it's gone. And then at that moment, my thumb started pounding. And my thumb had a big hole in it. And I could see the bone. I don't know whether it was from the weapon or something. But I wiped it all clean, checked again, and everything was good. So I was like, oh, fuck. Okay, so had a bit of a scare there. And by this point, I think the medic gave me some morphine and did all this stuff. So they got me on the stretcher. My friend did they're all friends, right? So, but he's the commander, did all the communications, get the helicopter down and everything. And then they were carrying me out on the stretcher. And we hit another one. So I got blown off the stretcher. But luckily, the medic stood on this one, but luckily, that's not the lucky bit. Luckily, it was a partial detonation, which means it did, the whole thing didn't go off, because the way they made with like explosive material, which is usually like a mix of fertilizers and other bits, and then they have an explosive rod that goes in, like an actual, usually like a military grade or a proper piece of detonator, and then from there they have a circuit, and then once that circuit gets closed by stepping on something, that creates the detonator explodes, and then all the material explodes. But these are all DIY things, so sometimes they haven't mixed it right, or they didn't waterproof it properly, it's got mixed up in the ground, or it's been in the ground too long. Lots of things can happen. But anyway, so it was enough to blow everyone off their feet, blew me off the stretcher. The medic had pretty nasty injury, like eight fractures, I think it was, from his ankle down to his foot. His foot was pretty shattered. So yeah, so I'm flying through the air and just thinking, what the fuck? And then I thought I couldn't see anything. So I thought maybe I was blind, and my mate come up and he wiped on my eyes and poured water. It was just dirt. But for a moment there, I thought I'd gone blind. And I kind of said to him, can I swear on here?
Yeah, Suey, one man.
Yeah. So I was just like, am I proper fucked now? And he just looked me up and down. He was like, no, you're the same fucked. So I was like, oh, cool. So get me out of here.
Same, like.
Yeah, so did that. Anyway, helicopter filled me with ketamine or whatever, took me to Camp Bastion, where they do the initial operations. I remember all the lights going down the corridor, and I remember kind of someone talking to me, probably the guy putting me under, right? Don't know what they said, probably counting or something. And then I woke up the next day in Bastion, but I think a lot of people don't wake up until they're again in the UK and everything else. So I had a friend that was in Camp Bastion at the time, so he came and visit me, chatted, and that was nice. And then luckily there was a flight going back to the UK that day. I think they go like twice a week, and luckily I got blown up the day before the flight, so I was quite quick on a flight back straight to Birmingham and operate again. The first days it's a lot of going back in and out to the into theater, open you, clean you up, tidy you up. They do that a few times. But yeah, so I was aware of everything. So when I was in the hospital, I never had to have anything explained to me, or I didn't have to. So maybe that acceptance phase you talked about was pretty quick for me, because I didn't have any of this kind of shock or need any of this, and I didn't go through any denial phase or whatever. Again, logically, I was there when it happened. I'm looking at missing limbs. It's there, right? So, and I've seen it happen to other people before as well. Guess maybe that's there's a couple of benefits from being injured in the army that way, I guess, compared to maybe being a civilian that loses legs in a car accident, for example. If that happens to a civilian, it's probably likely there's not that many other people they know that's happened to. Whereas in the army, one, it's more likely people that something like this has happened to, and two, when you go to the rehab center, it's a military run rehab center just for like injured military personnel. So then there's a lot of people around you with same or worse injuries than you, and not as bad, but there's a mix. But either way, it's all army guys, so you still have that kind of atmosphere, and you meet a lot of cool people. There's a lot of people there that are not taking it well, depressed, addicted to medications, etc. But then there's also people there that are getting on with it and doing it well, and you can kind of align yourself with them, or take inspiration from them. And the conversations you have like in the little groups is interesting. I remember one time we were sat in the cafeteria area, and everyone was kind of discussing this thing, and then I kind of sat back and listened, and the conversation was kind of like, there'll be like a guy with no legs and one arm, like, I'm glad I've still got an arm, or I'm glad I've still got my eyesight. And then there'll be like a guy who's missing his eyes sat next to him, and he's like, I'm glad I got my limbs, I can walk around or whatever. Like everyone was kind of like not focusing on the things they lost, they were focusing on the things they still had, the things they could still do. And, you know, I know triple amputees, guys with one arm skiing and stuff, right? Like I know guys doing all sorts of stuff. I climbed Mont Blanc a couple of years ago with two guys also missing their legs, but they're a lot higher than I am. So I've got my own knees and these guys don't. That's considerably harder. And these guys basically just got their own they make these like little legs with spikes on them, and they basically crawled up Mont Blanc.
Incredible. Incredible.
Days. And just the summit day, most people will they'll get up on the top floor from the top hut to the summit and back to the top hut. Normally people will get up about 1 a.m. No, not even that. Maybe even later than that. No, they won't. They'll actually get up about 4 a.m. They'll get to the summit for sunrise, I don't know, 6, 7, and then come back down, 6 hours. For these two guys that I was with, we had to get up at 1 a.m. and they went back till the evening the next day to the hut. And then they still got to get off the mountain. It took them 24 hours of crawling up a mountain and down, and just the top part of the mountain, 24 hours. So you meet some people like this as well, which, yeah, just inspiring and beasts, just machines, right?
This is incredible. It's incredible.
So there's a lot of things, but again, you have to be able to see that, right? Like you have to be able to see these people, concentrate on them. Like I could have gone and maybe sat with the people that were feeling sorry for themselves or addicted to medication, but I've always had a thing of taking motivation from things that I don't want to be or people I don't want to be, because I don't always know what I want. I've had a thing in my life where I don't always know what I want. I don't always have a clear image or a clear picture of who I want to be, of what I want. And I think that's the same with a lot of people. But I pretty much always have had an idea of what I don't want and who I don't want to be. And that's enough sometimes. If you have that, then you can stay away from that and you're going to be closer to where you want to be, right? Like,
yeah.
You can take your motivation, though, doesn't always have to be an idol or someone up here, right? It can be someone down there or something down there. You can take motivation from. And for me, that's often a more consistent way of doing it. At least I found anyway, that if I can stay away from the things that I really don't want to be doing and the type of person I don't want to be, I'm doing okay, right?
Yeah, I mean, I always say, as a coach and working with many coaches as well, there's many things you learn not what to do, rather than to do. And I always say like this to people: the basic is you may not know what to eat, but you know what you should not eat. So just stop eating what you know you should not eat, and start there.
It's like there's so much information out there, right? It's the same with people I've worked with. We've got information overload, right? You can always go down these loopholes and all that, but most people know enough, right? Like all the old information, eat balanced meals, eat fruit and veg, drink water, exercise. It's still correct. It's still right. It still works. It's still good. You can do nutrition course and you can constantly follow studies after study, all the newest studies, and be in like these little circles and bicker with each other and always carry around a folder of up-to-date evidence to prove your argument or whatever, right? It's like, I've been down all these paths as well before, and in the end, it's like I've kind of been like, I know enough. For what I need, I know enough.
And if it works, why change it, right? I mean, if it's delivering the result,
why make it more complicated than it needs to be? And like you said, again, with nutrition or training, maybe just focus on the basics first. Like a lot of people get hung up on all these little details, these magic little secrets, and they're not even doing the basics right yet. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's the same with life. If you haven't even got your basic foundations correct or like, solid, and then you're worrying about all this stuff that's out of your circle and out of your realm, really. Things that you can't control, or things that are just out of reach for you right now. And there's way more things closer to home and more doable than you could sort out first, and then fight from a stronger position, right? Like,
exactly. It's brilliant. And I just want to thank you there because, you sharing this stuff about even just the military, your experience, one, I commend you, it's brilliant. And, in terms of to share it, it's very valuable. And the way you compose yourself, and clearly, man, this is a traumatic time in you for anyone. Like, I mean, if you're a human being, it's traumatic, but what you sharing there as well about the military, I would have no idea that there's that many people that are, injured for life. And I don't think many people, unless they've been in the military, would be aware of that. I mean, we all watch movies and hear stories, but for that to be like the preparation and also the kind of the norm, I mean, we all need to commend, soldiers really more than we do, because, you guys, you've put your life, on the line, and your life has been impacted forever, whether we look at that positively or negatively or just the way it is. And, you guys are doing that for us, for everybody else.
I mean,
it's incredible.
The army for different reasons, but yeah, there's a lot of injured guys out there. I mean, I'm in a club with a lot of ex soldiers that were injured, and we've got this little private club, and we have like a general meeting every year, and we try and kind of give back, because all these guys feel like they've moved on and they're doing their own things, and like I said, a lot of them are doing pretty incredible stuff. And yeah, we try and raise money for charities and do other bits and bobs. Some of them do talks, and there was like that roller coaster accident a few years back. Some of our guys went and like spoke to them in the hospital. I think it was at Alton Towers or something. I think there was like a big theme park accident, and some of our guys went to the hospital and chatted with them just to kind of, I don't know. So they had someone that's been through it to speak to and whatever. So the guys are still doing stuff, and like I said, there's a lot of guys doing a lot of cool stuff and good stuff. So it's how you make of it, right? A lot of the stuff is like, again, cheesy and things people have heard of before. Like you said, it's not a secret, and it's not a secret formula, but it is that. It's what else are you going to do? You have to make do with what you've got and focus on what you've got and what you haven't got. And yeah, that's it. And don't get me wrong, there was times after my injury that, I had hard times. I didn't suffer with, everybody expects me to have had PTSD and all these things. I didn't have any of that, but I did have periods where I was angry, and I was, why me? I was always a good soldier. I always cared about my fitness, and I always cared about soldiering. And there's a lot of people in the army that don't, right? There's a lot of people in the army that just do what they need to do, and like they don't really care about their fitness. They just scrape by, and some of them are bad soldiers. Not bad people, but bad soldiers. That's just skill set, right?
Mm.
And not that you want anything to happen to them, but you definitely feel like, fuck, I've always tried. Like I've always, tried to be good at all my courses, and I will always stayed on top of my fitness and try to be a good soldier. And then, and that's life, right? You always, again, the whole self-centered thing of like, why me? Why me? Blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so I had those periods. And there was a period where I think I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder of feeling like I had to prove I was still a man and stuff, right? So I think I got into some fights and stuff quite a bit for a period when I'd go out drinking, and didn't start fights, but didn't avoid fights that I could have avoided. Was pretty happy with getting involved in fights.
Mm.
There was a couple of months where I had a period of yeah, I think I got pepper sprayed by the police like twice in 2 months or something. Yeah, and that could have carried on down that road, and who knows where I would have been. But luckily, I got a grip, and again, that question of why I managed to have time to sit down and ask myself why I was getting into these situations and you know, what it was. And as I just said, I think I come to the conclusion that I had a chip on my shoulder, and I felt like I had to prove I was still physical and I could still handle myself, and I could still, yeah, I had that. And I think, you know, I was 20, 22, 23, I think. No, yeah, 23 when I got injured. I think it was just before my 23rd birthday. So I was still a young guy. And leading up to that, you know, I'd been a young guy in the army. All I did was, you know, train, drink, go out and be physical and be that kind of typical young alpha kind of guy, right? So I think that was a big blow. And you know, there's a lot to deal with ego-wise with that. When your whole being, or a lot of your being has been your physicality, your looks, etc. So I think it was a big blow having something so physical happen. You know, you think, oh, I'm never gonna be pulling women again, and all these like typical young boy stuff I was thinking of straight away. You know, I think that was actually one of my first thoughts when I got injured was, fuck, I'm not
When you checked it.
but also just generally like, I'm not gonna be able to pull anymore.
Yeah. So that was first. If I do pull, have I got the goods there? Are they there? Okay, no.
Otherwise, what's the point anyway, right? But no, it was, yeah. So there was a lot of that, a lot of young guy stuff, a lot of that. I think ego and you know what's important to you when you're that kind of guy. You've been in that world as a youngster. So yeah, there was definitely periods of adjustment with ego and if I didn't get, you know, and even over the years, right? Like I still have insecurities. I still have, I mean, and everybody does. My insecurities now are around my legs. But even if I had legs, I would probably have, my arms would be too small, or my I wouldn't have good enough abs or something, right? But now, you know, wearing shorts, like I wear shorts all the time, but then, you know, if I'm on holiday and then, I don't know, swimming or all these different things, you want to maybe wear like smaller shorts and all that, like, you know, don't feel like my legs are big enough and it's hard to develop my legs and all that stuff. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and yeah, that's just insecurities and things to try and get over, like everybody has. Just mine is specific to that now.
Yeah, and I think that's why, you know, that's why you're still living, really, isn't it? And that's where we all are, because life is a combination of lessons to learn from, right? So you constantly working on yourself. And one of the questions I know would come to my mind, and I don't know if it'd come to your mind, it probably did. I don't know if in this sense, but after speaking with you before we got on and how logical and how much you question things, you know, one of the questions I would have would be, okay, not like, why did this happen to me, as in a form of like punishment, but okay, so why did this happen to me? I mean, why did this injury happen to me, and what was this about for the rest of my life? You know, what was this? This is clearly my path, and why was this my path? You know.
So I had questions like, why, as in, could I have done things better, differently, like soldering wise, could have avoided it? And the answer to that is yes. Like there are things you can do and situations you can assess, but you know, things happen quick and mistakes are made, and mistakes from someone else and me, and then you can hold hatred for someone else for making a mistake. You know, you can blame them, or you can accept your part in it as well, which is the reality. I don't think I've looked at it in terms of it was meant to be and that's my path or anything like that, because I'm not a very, I don't know if you say, what would you call it, spiritual? I'm not a very spiritual person, or a very, I don't believe in like fate and all these things. I kind of just think shit happens. That's kind of my outlook on things, and shit did happen to me, and it's my thing, right? Like I have to deal with it. I can't go around putting it on everyone else and blaming other people, or, you know, it's like my pain is my pain, your pain is your pain. Everybody's got shit going on. Like, there are worse things, like way worse things that I've seen and that I haven't seen, that I've heard of, and there is a lot of shit going on with a lot of people. And unfortunately, you know, you did come into this world alone, and you are going to go out on your own, and it's your stuff to deal with. And I think things like having kids and stuff has helped actually a lot, especially with the insecurity thing, because I don't know, like, say, I never really like going on the beach that much. I never liked it before anyway, but I definitely didn't like it after. Not necessarily because of insecurities with the looks and stuff, but it's just a pain in the ass getting sand everywhere in the legs and all these different things. So I kind of avoided it. You know, my kids love the beach, so then I started kind of making more of an effort and kind of getting into it and making sure I set things up that was convenient for me, like having spare liners and legs. Like, liners are the things that you put on to hold your legs on. Having spare ones ready so I can just quickly pack them and take them and shift them. So, like, you just, because I don't want to, like, not go to the beach and stop them going to the beach and all these things because of my shit, right? Like, I don't want to, put that on them, or, like I said, put that on other people. It's my thing.
Brilliant. And obviously my wife's pregnant now, so I'm going to be a father of a son, and you know, I'm always getting guys on here and women as well, and just taking some advice from him. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you, obviously, you know, with you being in the army and you having 2 children, and obviously you're teaching them a lot of lessons and embedding them a lot of gifts of wisdom, really. You know, how do you prepare your children now, knowing obviously how life can just be, you know, changed like that? What are you doing to embed this kind of, you know, system into them to prepare them for any outcome?
I wouldn't say I am doing anything very deliberately. Maybe things will rub off on me. I think what we do is we always try and make sure they're comfortable, that, you know, they can talk to us about everything. And again, maybe my logical sense of things, I don't blow up very much. Things happen, I can always.
You did twice.
yeah, that's good. But no, and I think, I don't know. It's a good question. I don't think we're deliberately trying to instill anything into them, and also I don't think I'm perfect, or I don't think I have a perfect way of dealing with things or anything either. So I think a big part of it is not thinking I know everything, actually, and letting them know that I don't know everything. I think it's important that if I don't know something, I'd say to them, I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe you should find out, or if you find out, let me know. You know, and accepting faults, or admitting to things when you're wrong. You know, like, not having to just be right because you're the parent or whatever. Sometimes you're going to be wrong. Sometimes you're going to make mistakes. And I think what's more important than being right or whatever is being able to admit when you were wrong.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of these things are, I mean, my kid's still young as well. He's 4 going on 5 in May. So we're not having big complex conversations about anything right now. But you know, we talk and we have conversation, and when he's feeling stuff, I do, you know, I try and ask him why. And why thing, maybe that's something I'm doing. I'm using the why thing on him, like when he's angry or when he's upset, and I try and ask him if he knows why, or why he thinks he's doing this, and etc. And I try and get him to figure it out, try and get him to say, and then also tell him that it's okay to feel that way. Like, it's okay if he's angry, and it's okay if he's upset. I don't punish him for it. You know, they're all normal feelings, and you will have a lot of feelings throughout your life. Like being sad, you know, being sad is normal. Being angry is normal. And I think there's a lot of there's a lot of talk now, obviously, with mental illness over the last few years, almost to a point where I don't know if it's gone the opposite way now, right? Like every time someone is sad, they think they're depressed, because it's almost like it's talked about so much. It's on the forefront of the mind so much that as soon as you're kind of sad or not having a good week, good time, it's like, oh, and you're always seeing on your social media, on the TV, about depression and PTSD and mental illness. You're thinking, oh, maybe that's what this is. It's like when you scroll your symptom or Google your symptoms, right? Oh, shit, maybe that's what I've got.
Shit, maybe I'm a psychopath.
Yeah, I swear to God, I actually Googled a long time ago, like if I was like a sociopath or something, right? Because you know how I said I've always been considered, I'm very logical, and some people have found that, and people like ex-partners and other people, that I'm cold. I could be cold, or they seem like I'm cold because I don't, like I said, I don't jump up and down with joy with stuff on my birthday. I don't. Yeah, I'm just not that way. I'm just not. So then I was like, fuck, maybe there is something wrong with me, you know? Like I don't cry a lot, or I feel sadness. I feel sadness, and I feel, you know, happy when things are happy. I'm just not very like expressive of it. So yeah, I looked into it, and I found this thing. It was like 16 personalities test, I think it's called. It's like a psychology test you can take. And I did this test, and this came out that I was like a logician. There's all these different types of ones you can be in. I've had a couple of people do it actually, and it's been pretty accurate with a bunch of them. But it is what it is, right? And also you can't do these things and then like be like, oh, this says on this, so
you like owning the title of it.
Like when people are horoscopes and they're like, oh, well, a Gemini says I'm moody this month, so I'm moody, or you know, I'm whatever it is.
Yeah, it's funny. People play on it. Like it's like when the wife's pregnant and she turns into a bit of a aggressive one, and she's like, "Well, it's just my hormones." It's like,
yeah. What I mean,
I'm joking.
She might have a little bit more of a case than that than horoscope, but yeah.
But yes, I mean, you know, you
different stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, one thing, like I said, you know, you're leading, and I said this at the beginning, you're leading by an example. So you know, you showing your vulnerabilities and showing, you know, how you take on life. And, you know, I've always been inspired, like I'm inspired to inspire. So I don't look at people, and I'm saying this now just to say it. It's not because I think you think or anybody else. I don't look at people and get inspired by these struggles. Okay. I get inspired by their strength throughout their struggles. You know what I mean? So you know, I get drawn towards people, and just seeing you of like what you've done in your life and what you're still doing, and how driven, and you know, like how you take things, you know, it's really inspiring. And you know, your children, man, they're following that, and you like I said, you're not even trying to do it. This is just you are just living. You're living the life that you've been given to the best you can, making the mistakes along the way, and the people around you are, you know, seeing that. So
I think that's what you said there, doing the best. I think that's one of the things I'm trying to instill in my kids. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's something I don't care about. If they care about it, then I want them to do their best at it. And also let them try, let them fail. I think since my boy was young, you know, we've both been quite relaxed parents in terms of we let him climb stuff, and if he falls, he falls, and you know, not, you know, super high or whatever, dangerous stuff. But we let him hurt himself, right? Like we let him hurt himself, and we let him learn, and we let him figure things out. And when he's like, I can't do it, I'll be like, just try it. And if you can't do it, you know, we'll help you in the end or whatever, but try first. And you know, just lots of stuff, I think. And that too, right? I don't know the answers. I'm still a new parent. I don't know. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to say the wrong thing. I'm going to do the wrong thing. And I know that, and I expect that. And I just hope that I can own up to it and apologize for it. And that's my hope. That's all I want to be as a father. I want him to be able to come to me with things to be able to talk to me, and also to not think I'm perfect, to see that, yeah, and that's what I hope. I hope we have a pretty open relationship, and but who knows? And again, he might turn up and be completely different. You know, he could be people are different, right? And like you have all sorts of people out there, and they're not all just an image of their parents. I'm sure there's terrible people out there that have amazing parents, right? Like well, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I know there's people that have done atrocious things, and you think they maybe have come from a bad background, but they haven't. They've come from a great background with great parents, and then they've just got something that's so, like you said, all we can do is do our best, and try and give them a good life and give them opportunities. And I want him to think outside the box a bit, maybe, and try and find something that he loves. I think that's something not even that many people find something they really love, right? Like they're passionate about. That in itself, even if you can't like do much with it, that's a success, right? Like I know there's like probably 7 out of 10 people that don't even have like a thing that gives them proper joy and passion, and just finding that thing. And people I come from, like you said, Cardiff, and I come from an area that wasn't, I come from not a poor background, but not a well-off background, and didn't go to the best school, and we didn't have a lot of like sports opportunities and stuff from my school. We didn't have a lot of that going on. And I could have been the best tennis player in the world, but I never played tennis, so I wouldn't.
Try everything, isn't it? Try everything.
Yeah, try stuff, and yes, enjoy life. Like there's so much to do and see.
It really is, man. I have one more question for you. So, what one piece of advice would you give anybody, our viewers, myself, anybody, or one piece of advice would you give anyone that wants to transform their life?
Have a clear understanding of what your vision is of success or happiness, or both. Because I don't think you can be happy, I don't think you can be successful if you know what that looks like for you. Not what everyone else thinks that looks like. Not what the media says that looks like. It needs to be your version of success and your version of happiness. Because otherwise you'll spend all your time driving towards something that's not that, right?
Yeah, brilliant. I love it. Thank you, man. I really appreciate your time. I really do. I know you're a busy guy, and I look forward to the ventures you go on. I love following your stuff, man. I mean, you're living an incredible life, and you live it with incredible people by the looks of it, and you're adaptable to change, and you're an inspiration. You're leading by an example, and I want to thank you for your time, our time for the audience as well. So it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, and thanks for anyone that listens to this random guy. But no, hopefully there'll be more adventures to come. So keep your eyes peeled, and like I said, we'll try and raise some money for charities and stuff as well again soon. So yeah.
Keep me updated with that as well, man, because that's very close to my heart as well, and very good. So let's keep in touch. I know we're always in touch anyway, and life goes by, right? So yeah,
man. Well, Dubai's on my list to go to relatively soon, so I'll hit you up when I head over, because I still haven't been there. And I've been promising the partner and the kids that we'll fly over. So
you'll be like Mark, me and Mark at a podcast, and then 3 weeks later he's in my guest room in the family view. Come along, man.
I know a couple of people over there now living the dream. So yeah, I got a few faces to visit. So no, I'll definitely be over. Maybe later this year or something. We'll see.
We look forward to seeing you, man. Let me know, and I'll pick you up from the airport. Done deal.
Nice.
All right. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate it, and thank you as well.
Good luck with everything, mate.
Thank you for listening. If you haven't done yet, please subscribe to this channel. Comment below if you like this video. Share this video. Once again, thank you. Have a good night. Take care of each other. #Bulboot.